Hi, everyone. Welcome to Run with Alli Live. It is Wednesday, June 18th, and it is sunny here in San Diego, which is amazing because the marine layer just kind of wore off, and I love that in June gloom. We have a really special guest today. Alec, how is the weather by you?
Rough. 90s, hot and humid, sticky, hard to train in.
Oof.
But here I am, so it's not all bad. Looking for the fall weather to cool down. But yeah, can't complain.
Yeah, no, can't complain. It makes you stronger, right? Always.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
yep, it
Uh,
most certainly does.
Yeah, for sure. And no, I'm really excited to have you on the podcast today. To the returning listeners on here, if you have not subscribed to the show already, please feel free to do so after today's episode. And to anyone new on here, you're in for a treat. We have a very special guest, and we're going to be talking about all things, training, coaching, and ways you could access Alec's company's tools to help you run better and optimize your performance. So Alec, real quick, I'll let him take a deeper dive into this. He's the co-founder or founder rather of American Track Ascension, and it is a platform that gives the most of us who are not elite athletes the tools and resources that those guys do have to optimize our training and train with structure and have that accountability. I will let Alec dive more into that. So Alec, thank you again for coming onto the show. And I would love for you to talk to us about who you are in and outside of running and training and what you do for a living, and then dive into what you do with American Track Ascension.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show to take the time to do that today. So yeah, I'm Alec, founder of American Track Ascension. It's kind of start with my coaching background first of all, then kind of dive in my personal running, and then a little bit of outside of that. Yeah, so my coaching background, it really started in high school. Actually, backtrack, I started as a strength and conditioning coach right out of college. Did that for not too long. Just kind of wanted to give back to the running world in some way or another where I could. Yeah, so started off just volunteering in high school. Came in, implemented my own systems I had at the time, not what it is today, but eventually was able to introduce first time runners to the sport in some way, whether they run it to qualify for state, just run a PR, or just have a good time, just get introduced to them. And then after that, not too long, I moved on to the college level at Wingate University, a really good D2 program. Was there for a good amount of time as an assistant coach. Through that, I had the privilege of working with these elite coaches and athletes. And I remember, say, the first day when I got there, I just thought I had it all down. I knew the science, I read the books, as they say, I knew the workouts, but I really didn't know the elite mindset in that world. Because most runners, from my experience, they kind of tackle everything by, effort based. You need to do this workout because it's feels like this on this day or whatever, or because so and so told you to, basically. But I think the thing that's most eye opening is that the elites, they do everything systematically. And it was really weird at first. Um, yeah, so
But is it
just
weird?
no, it's not weird. It was different. I'd say it's very pattern based. Like
Mm-hmm.
everything is a phase. It's very specific. It's not so much because I'll be honest, I thought, oh, they're just going to run more miles, run harder. That's how you get faster. Okay. But it wasn't. It's actually quite the opposite. They're more relaxed about their training, and they approach it very systematically. It was through then I had the really good privilege to coach two national champions, one in the 5,000 meters indoors in 2023, one in the 3K steeplechase a year ago. It was funny in that race, our guys went 1, 2, and 3 in the steeplechase. If you can ever find that race, it's actually really cool. It's something that you don't see too much. I've had also the privilege to guide 8 NCAA All Americans, and I think probably, I think my most proudest moments is just guiding probably over 100 plus runners to PRs, wherever that brings them. Because it's not just
Mhm.
about the elites, it's about everybody. Because everybody has their own journey, everybody can be a part of it in some way. So I say, yeah, just guiding those people to those PRs along the way, whatever destination that brings them to, that's probably my proudest moments as a coach. Um, just very quickly, my running background, I still compete post collegiately in cross country and track. I competed both in Division 1 and Division 2. I actually preferred Division 2, believe it or not. It's a little more of a relaxed environment, not so high pressured. Ran in high school, set a few class records here and there, but I wasn't a state qualifier or anything. So I really had to earn my way through the ranks, almost kind of a chip on my shoulder. And yeah, today's today's world, just enjoying cross country and track competing, just post collegiately.
I love that. And, everyone has a story. Thank you for kind of dropping that in, because to the listeners on here, if you don't come from the track, or even if you do, it's just interesting to hear the different guests, their stories, because it kind of trickles into their why. And I love how everyone's so different. And, of course, your passion, speaks for itself, like, right. Like what you're doing now, you're following your passion. Real quick to the listeners on here, Alec, like me, took the entrepreneurial route to follow his passion, turn it into his job to help others crush it. Pretty much. Very simple and short, right?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
rough at first. It was really rough at first when I started it. Yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't just day one doing well. It was rough. Even though I came from that really good elite world, I still had, kind of like what I said with my personal running background, had a chip on my shoulder, had to earn my way every step of the way. Kind of got scrappy where I could, working part time while building this at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eventually got it to the point where I can just do this, and I'm honestly very blessed to do it, because I don't take it for granted.
Yeah. And, I admire people like yourself who, that's a conversation for another live business building. But
Yeah,
I admire, you sharing that, because it's very difficult, but also the wisdom that you'll be able to share. And you probably do share to the 100+ athletes and everyone you're going to touch moving forward, is second to none. So, I think that that's just very special. I'm very big on, yeah, credentials and academia. I am also just, if not more, as big on experience and like having gone
yeah.
through things that people could relate to, right? Because that's just like a whole other ball game, I think. Um, so you founded American Track Ascension and coach athletes of
Hmm.
all levels. Um, I guess you coach like all levels, correct?
Yeah, pretty much from amateurs, first time marathoners, or just first time runners, all the way to the professional and elite level. All of them have their challenges, upsides, and everything. I'd say I really like working with the first timers, to be honest with you. Kind of them seeing go from ground zero to go into 100, wherever that brings them. I think that's the coolest thing. You see like the biggest transformation, and it's really cool thing to see. Yeah, the elites, it's cool. They're already good. But you don't, it's not such a big transformation as is working with first timers or people that come to me and say, "Oh gosh, Alec, I've been stuck in a rut. I just don't know why." Then we sort of pinpoint that early on. Usually I can find it pretty quickly, and then
Yeah.
seeing them sort of rebuild, redefine themselves into some brand new runner. It's really
Yeah.
cool to see.
Yeah. And I'm like you, I love working with the newbie, because
Hmm.
unlike you, and to the listeners on you, you probably know this about me by now. I did not come from the track. I had a swimming background. I left corporate America, went to full-time fitness pro like you, was working part-time in a digital ad agency while working on strength for runners at Equinox, actually, before even like really coaching runners, while I was also doing it too and being coached, coming to running later in life as an adult. Right. And then working towards a faster marathon and getting a sub 3. So that was just a very abbreviated version, but there's something about seeing people like starting from scratch and just having gone through that yourself. Even if you're from the track, there was a time where you didn't, right? And even though it might have been a
Yeah.
different season, just to be a part of someone's journey as invested in it, as they are, is just, I think that's a really special piece of coaching. So I love that you work with like such a wide range of runners and not just, um, you know, like you said, elite, or
Elise,
I
yeah.
don't like the term recreational, at all. But you're not just working with people that are sub pro, right? Or like trying to like get an Olympic standard or something like that, right? So
Yep.
yeah. So, I guess this is one of my favorite questions I had for you. Um, you talked about it was hard at the beginning, right? It
Hmm.
was hard getting started. And so I
Yeah.
guess from then to now, like what are some really pivotal moments that helped to shape your philosophy, and has that changed?
It's changed massively. Really began when I started working in Division 2 at Wingate. Yeah, during high school, I kind of brought what I knew at the time, but you sort of just trial and error at the time, and that's the best way to learn, in my opinion. Didn't really have a system in place. I did all right there. I did well. It wasn't till I got to that Division 2 level. And like I said, I thought I understood training, had the science down, read the books, knew the workouts, but being in that elite environment really opened my eyes to something crucial. And I'd say the biggest pivotal moment came when I started working with those coaches at
Hmm.
college, observing their day-to-day methods, what they do, what they don't do, to be honest. I
Even
expected to
better.
see, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
Yeah.
expected to see just massive complex workouts, high intensity, high mileage. But the thing I found is that they approached everything systematically. Every decision, every single day had a purpose. Every workout fit into a larger framework. They
Hmm.
paid attention to the closest details that even a lot of college coaches don't even do, believe it or not. Um, I remember early on, right when I think it was because I didn't arrive there at Wingate as a assistant coach at the beginning of the academic year. I came in during indoor track season. I remember one athlete, a Moroccan athlete there, great guy. I just remember he came up to me, and this was day 2. I wasn't really in anybody at the time, but he just came up to me and said, "Oh gosh, Alec," he said that has been stuck, running the same time for over a year. I don't know what to do, and kind of what I was thinking is traditional thinking would say, oh, just run more miles, do harder workouts. But when we apply those elite systems, and this is where I'm going to kind of dive in a little bit of my 9-step system
Hmm.
that you can also see on my website. I talk about it probably way too much, but it is important. So step 1 of that, I name it the performance baseline matrix. And this is kind of where I sat down with him. And so just about identifying hidden limitations, where you're at currently, what's been holding you back. Most people don't really know that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, even sometimes I don't myself. We discovered his issues weren't physical at all. They were really systematic gaps in recovery, fueling, and race execution, which is quite common actually.
Yeah. And I
Yes,
also
so
like, not to cut you off for a second, but I think
no, you're
that
fine.
this is the value of a coach like yourself, right? Like really like understanding, um, like that there are all these things for an individual to focus on, and you can't do it alone, right? This is why, to the listeners on here, it's so good to have a sounding board and a coach in your ear, because training is not just about the training. It's about recovery, nutrition, all the things, and like how to recognize all of these things, where they're lacking, where they're good. And yeah, I loved that you just hit on that.
You have to be, even I have a coach. I'm a coach, but
Same,
a coach,
same.
coach. Yeah, I can't do it alone. I
I
can't do
think
it alone.
every coach needs a
Yeah,
coach.
exactly.
Yeah.
It holds you accountable. You don't shortchange yourself. You don't lie to yourself or cheat. It holds
Hmm.
you accountable. And yeah, going back to this athlete very quick to finish up on that. He went on to win his first and only national title in his collegiate career. I wish he had more, but it's hard. It was about, if I'm remembering the timeline, it was about 15, 16 weeks total. Not because we trained him harder, but because we trained smarter with a complete system in place. I'd say that one experience right from the get-go shaped my core philosophy that I still carry on today. Yeah, it's edited here and there a little bit, but I will say breakthrough performances aren't about talent or just getting lucky on the day. They're predictable outcomes when you do implement the right system in place, which is why I developed my 9-step system of everything we do at American Track Ascension.
Yeah, and you just hit on like all my questions that I was going to ask you today, so thank you very much. But that's
Okay.
okay because now I could
Yeah.
pull out other ones that I had for you myself. Well, we didn't really cover on, I was looking at, your fabulous website and your Peak Performance Accelerator. It emphasizes
Hmm.
running more. Speaking of, we were just speaking about this earlier,
Yeah.
isn't the solution. How does that principle like influence, I guess, not only how you structure your training plans, but how you coach your athletes?
Yeah, so it's really fundamental in everything I do. Most runners fall into the more is better trap, more miles, more workouts, more intensity. But, you know, kind of going back to being in that elite circle around those guys and women, is that elites don't think this way at all, at least most of them. The Peak Performance Accelerator, which is my 9-step system, I just named it that, just pulled out a name that made sense. It's really built on the idea that you can spend the same amount of time and energy in training, but achieve those results that you never thought were possible by targeting specific weaknesses by leveraging your strengths. um, and how this influences my structure instead of starting with, just a generic training plan. And, sometimes I'll go on Facebook groups and just kind of see how day-to-day runners are doing, what questions they're asking, just kind of doing a deep dive into their pain points and what their challenges are. And I think the sad thing is that a lot of runners don't train right at all. They kind of piece together, things through social media or blogs or just ask on social media, which can be fine
Hmm.
if you're getting the right stuff. But I think having that system in place, which I stress so much, is actually really important. And how we so any new athlete I bring on, we always begin with the performance baseline matrix. Step one in my system, identifying exactly what's holding you back. Maybe it's inefficient pacing strategies in workouts and racing, or suboptimal recovery protocols, something that actually doesn't get talked about a whole lot, or it's mental barriers that they have no idea about. So like once we know that specific limitation, we create what I call a success path blueprint, which is step 3 in my system. And it's really addressing those exact issues. Think of it as like, I don't know, you have a GPS, you start from here and your destination is there, you can clearly see it. That's what this step does. It's a roadmap to get you there, not just, here's this week, that week. No, I say, here's where we're at. This is how I'm going to get you there through this process. And this
Hmm.
is where you'll end at. Bear in mind, you don't have injuries or get sick or any type of other disaster.
Right.
Nothing is guaranteed. So yeah, that's that. And, for one athlete, I'd say breakthrough might come from better race execution through our race day victory system. That's step 4 in my training. That's probably the most important step, to be honest, which really is what we do in there is kind of insert the specific phases of training. This is the action plan. This is where you take action and how you get from here to there. So yeah, that's that.
Yeah. And I'm sure that like thank you for sharing like how the step-by-step plan of like looking at that longer term goal. And by the way, I'm very big, I'm sure you are, is like never looking at like that bigger goal as like That's it. Like always setting another one, right? Always like having that in
Yeah.
mind or putting it on the calendar, whatever, just because we love the journey, right? We're all about the journey. We don't want to get to the destination. There is none, right? So like, yeah,
No, yeah.
yeah. But I'm sure throughout these like steps, you adjust as you go. You said things happen, injuries come up, some people travel, right? And so I would love to hear like more on a personalization basis versus customized, like how much you go into that, and does that affect like, yeah, like how does that affect, I guess, each step, if that's even applicable?
It most certainly is. I have one athlete, uh, a woman who I'm training right now. She, because her work, she's traveling, gosh knows, all right and left, up and down the country, overseas, and
Mm-hmm.
constantly, like, what I do is any athlete that works with me, you get my entire framework, all my templates and guides to this entire nice step system. You get coaching calls with me every week. A lot of coaches do that. It's very important. We do it on Zoom,
Absolutely. Yeah. Same.
face to face. Yep. Unlimited DM text. So we're always constantly communicating. And yeah, any of those injury comes up. Well, I know for a fact that we're not training the way we are this week. Maybe it's, hey, we're taking 5 days off this week. Forget about strength training because your legs are beat up. That's not going to do anything for you. You know, we need to maybe just simply rest this week or cross train, and we can always come back the following week if everything's healthy, and just not pick things up, but I'd say pick things up from an appropriate level. You know, traveling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we may need to move, let's say, a Tuesday workout to Wednesday, just an example, or
Mm-hmm.
that even worse, you may just need to eliminate a workout and just run the most important workout of the week, which for all my athletes, it's the Tuesday workout. That's the most important, the earlier workout in the week. Apart from the marathoners, is more the long run. So yeah, we're constantly always adjusting things like that, or people that come back to me and say, "Hey, you know, this didn't feel hard at all. I was talking and laughing the whole time during the workout." So yeah, obviously we need to adjust the paces, or hey, this was way too hard. I can't do that again. So you know, we're backing down. We're cutting reps off. We're cutting volume off. We're doing everything we can to train just right. I don't want people to get the most out of yourself that you can in training. Let's save that for race day. Let's just train smart, you know, just nice, solid training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I always like to ask that question because everyone handles that differently, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. So, thank you for, sharing all of this. I personally have a few more questions just from this conversation that I'm
Hmm.
thinking of. But I'm going to ask you two more for the sake of time. So, we talked about like burnout a little bit, like I think in your email,
Hmm.
briefly. Uh, and I think that's just like a very common theme right now. I've seen across athletes just in general, training from the mile to the marathon. And I would love to hear like not how you incorporate that, but like just as a coach and as a founder of a company, with everything you just said, like how you approach, burnout, to most athletes, but also like to yourself.
Yeah. The reason I'm so big on it is because I've experienced it. I went down a period of 4 years. I don't want to talk about myself, but this will kind of make sense. I promised. Yeah, I went through. I had a coach. Yeah, I right after college, I got into marathons. Ironically, I hate that distance. I wanted to do it, but
Hate's a strong word, just likes a little
yeah,
better,
it is.
just a little.
Yeah, dislike. Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, and just pushing massive miles, high intensity. It just was not mentally, physically in a good place. Just worse, worse, and worse and worse every year. Eventually, rebuilt myself over a period of a couple of years. So that's that really shortly. I don't want to talk about myself. Um, yeah, and so how I really prevent it is in this NICEP system. It's all in there. Not approaching everything from an intensity standpoint, a mileage standpoint, because I don't care about mileage. I don't care about specific paces. Yeah, we want to hit them on workouts, but it's really more of a guide. Kind of like saying, hey, if on this day, typically I like you in with this range of a window, but if you're not feeling it, don't gas yourself to try to hit those just because it displays it. And I think that's the number one fault, or the number one reason where most runners, even I did this for way too long, really screwed themselves over is if that, it's a day they're just not feeling it, or conditions don't align, or they're just not ready for that yet. Don't try to force yourself to go to that level. I'd rather have you be 10 seconds slower than 10 seconds too fast or right on pace, and feeling like
100%.
it's, if it's a tempo workout, we don't want to get done and saying, oh my gosh, that felt like a VO2 max workout. Well, what do we get out of the day? We got absolutely nothing. So yeah, and I don't care about paces on easy days. I don't assign paces on easy days. More of a mental thing, really. Kind of gives you a break just to go out, have a laugh, have fun, chat with friends on a run. Obviously, keeping your mechanics mechanically good, because it does come to a point where you're jogging so slow that your form is just sloppy and out there. That actually can increase your risk of injury. So kind of trying to find that fine line. And yeah, really just those basic two things is how I prevent burnout, apart from using my NICEP system.
I love that. Yeah. And there's like so much that goes like into burnout too. So I love that like you shared all of that, and awesome. Thank you for sharing. So, um, last question for you. So why did you express interest in being on the Run with Alli live podcast today?
Yeah, I think there's about two or three main reasons. Hopefully this doesn't take too long. But yeah, especially one of the questions I was looking forward to that I hope you were going to ask. So yeah, I'd say most podcasters, I'd say nowadays, they just want to interview the best of the best, the most well-known people. And I like what you do. Like, you bring in everybody. You don't just talk about one topic. It's a wide range of people, and you'd be surprised. People that nobody knows about, a lot of times I find they have the best information, even I had no idea about. Even some people on your podcast I was watching, I was like, man, I had no idea about that.
Oh
It's like, that
yeah.
is like, man, even I could use that. So yeah, and another point, it's really about the mission alignment, because what I look at what you're doing with your show, I see the same commitment to serving the running community that drives everything I do with myself at American Track Ascension. I also think that there are too many runners out there just stuck following either outdated advice or piecing together stuff on their own, and it's not their fault. They just don't have access to it. Not everybody knows about it, and I get it. We've
Mm-hmm.
all been there. So I'd say this podcast really gives me the opportunity, just if it reaches one more person that say, oh geez, maybe I could look into this and apply it to myself, then that's a win for me. I just need to reach one more person. I don't need to reach 120 more people or 1,000, just one. So yeah, I really like that. This whole podcast is really laid out openly to do that.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, and I love your response. If you could just reach one more person, that's awesome.
Hmm.
You're in this for the right reasons. Your heart is, at least, and I'm. This is the podcast for people to have their voice heard. It's for the everyday runner, right, as the audience, but also there's. I'm glad you listened to some episodes, because we had people from like Hal Higdon to some pro runners, but that doesn't mean that anyone's any better than anyone, right? Because now we
Hmm.
have so many other guests, including yourself, who are spitting gems and great information. And yes, and I'm happy to share that with others as well. Yeah, so I'm excited. And thank you for sharing all that. And it's been a pleasure speaking with you today, Alec.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's an honor to come on your show. Thanks for having me.
Of
Yeah, really
course.
enjoyed talking these things with you today.
Yeah, I'm sure. And it won't be the last. So
Yep,
Until next
absolutely.
time. Yeah, until next time. So thank you so much. And again, to the returning listeners on here, do not forget to tap that subscribe button in whatever platform you're listening to the show on. And to the newbies, feel free to subscribe to the show. And I will be sharing Alec's information under the show notes. So please be cognizant of his time when you do reach out. But yes, it will all be there. So you can get in touch with him. And other than that, I'll see you at the same time next time. Thanks so much.